The silent war in your garden rarely announces itself. It begins with just a few curled leaves, a faint sticky residue on stems, and the slow weakening of once thriving plants. Then, almost overnight, it escalates. Tiny invaders you barely notice at first begin multiplying beneath leaves and along tender shoots, draining life from your crops before you even realize what is happening. For generations, gardeners have faced this same hidden battle, and the immediate response in modern times has often been to reach for harsh chemical sprays. But what many never question is whether that solution comes at a cost far greater than the problem itself. On today's episode for Nature's Flora YT channel, we are stepping away from that cycle and revisiting something closer to forgotten practical wisdom, a simple homemade garden insect spray that works with nature rather than against it. Before we dive in, take a moment to like this video, share it with fellow gardeners who are struggling with pests, leave a comment with your biggest garden challenge, and subscribe to Nature's Flora for more timeless, practical growing knowledge that actually works in real soil, not just theory. Once you understand how pests operate, the solution becomes far less complicated than most people assume. Aphids, whiteflies, mites, and similar soft-bodied insects survive by overwhelming plants quickly, feeding in clusters, and reproducing at extraordinary speed. They don't just damage plants visually, they weaken the plant's internal system by extracting sap, disrupting nutrient flow, and leaving behind conditions that encourage mold and disease. This is why infestations can turn serious in just a few days, if ignored. Understanding the real problem in the garden. For years, the common belief has been that pests are simply dirty invaders that must be eliminated with strong chemicals. But history shows a different perspective. Traditional farmers and early gardeners often worked with simple, accessible materials long before synthetic pesticides existed. Their approach was not about total destruction, but disruption, repelling pests, breaking breeding cycles, and strengthening plant resilience. Modern gardening often forgets this balance, focusing instead on instant results that sometimes create longer-term damage to soil health and beneficial insects. Chemical sprays may seem effective at first, but they often wipe out natural predators like ladybugs and lacewings while leaving the ecosystem weaker over time. When that balance collapses, pests tend to return even stronger. This is why a gentler but consistent method often produces more stable, long-term results. Building a natural protective spray. The strength of a homemade spray lies in how simple ingredients work together to create multiple layers of defense. Instead of relying on a single aggressive chemical reaction, this method uses everyday kitchen materials that each play a specific role in disrupting pests. Water acts as the base carrier, allowing even distribution across leaves and stems. A mild soap component breaks down the protective outer layer of soft-bodied insects, making it difficult for them to survive contact. Vinegar introduces an acidic environment that discourages feeding and disrupts pest activity on treated surfaces. Garlic provides a strong natural odor barrier that confuses and repels insects searching for plants to colonize. Even coffee grounds, when used carefully in diluted form, contribute subtle deterrence, while adding organic value to the surrounding soil. When combined properly, these elements create a balanced spray that targets pests in multiple ways rather than relying on a single point of attack. So, let's talk about the preparation and application method. The preparation process begins with clean water as your base. The key here is consistency in mixing so each ingredient blends evenly without forming clumps or residues. Once the soap element is dissolved, vinegar is introduced slowly, followed by finely measured garlic. The mixture should be shaken thoroughly until it becomes slightly foamy, which indicates proper integration of the components. Before applying it to your garden, it is essential to strain the mixture to prevent nozzle blockage. Application timing is just as important as the mixture itself. Early morning or late evening is ideal because cooler temperatures reduce the risk of leaf stress and allow the solution to remain effective longer on plant surfaces. Focus your attention on the underside of leaves where most pests tend to hide and reproduce. A light, even misting is enough. Oversaturation should be avoided as plants respond best to controlled coverage rather than excessive dripping. Repeated application every few days during active infestations helps interrupt the pest life cycle. while weekly maintenance spraying can serve as preventive care. Restoring balance in the garden is, honestly, one of the most overlooked aspects of pest control: recovery. After treatment begins working, you'll often notice plants showing signs of revival, like firmer leaves, less curling, and even new growth at the stems. This is all thanks to reduced stress and better internal nutrient flow, but it's consistency that really keeps this recovery going. If you skip treatments too soon, pests can come back and undo all your hard work. It's also important to, observe the broader garden environment. Things like healthy soil, proper watering routines, and plant diversity all play a role in natural pest resistance. A spray on its own isn't a complete system, it's just one part of a bigger gardening rhythm, one that values balance over force. Closing thoughts. Gardening has always been, in a way, a conversation between human effort and natural systems. The most effective methods aren't usually the most complicated, but the ones that are consistent and respectful of that balance. This homemade spray really is a practical and accessible way to manage pests without disrupting the ecosystem you're working so hard to build. If this guide helps you take control of your garden in a more natural and sustainable way, be sure to subscribe to Nature's Flora YT channel. Share this knowledge with others who might be facing the same struggles, and, keep exploring methods that bring life back into your soil, instead of stripping it away.